I wrapped a gift to make peace. She opened it to start a war. When my father told me to be grateful, she even accepted it. I decided my gratitude would look like consequences. By New Year's Eve, the word family, the word she loved most, was going to be the evidence that brought her down. My name is Lauren Allen. I am 29 years old. The drive to my father's house in Ravenport, Pennsylvania, is always a controlled descent. Today, on Christmas, the air outside the windshield is the color of wet iron, and the slush kicked up by the trucks on the turnpike cakes my headlights. I grip the wheel, my knuckles white, my shoulders tight beneath my seatbelt. I am on time. Trina Caldwell, my stepmother, hates lateness. She considers it a form of rebellion. Maybe she is right. I pull onto Hawthorne Drive. The house, the one I grew up in, looks compressed under the gray sky. Trina has spent the last decade systematically erasing my mother's footprint. The soft, welcoming blue shutters are gone, replaced by a severe, fashionable charcoal. The unruly rose bushes my mother loved have been ripped out, replaced with disciplined, dormant hydrangeas. It is a house of perfect, cold surfaces. I park in the driveway, behind my father's gleaming new SUV. I sit for a moment, the engine ticking as it cools. On the passenger seat, wrapped in simple brown craft paper and tied with twine, is my gift for her. It is not a truce. I am too old for truces. It is a test, a simple, quiet test. I take one, steadying breath, hold it until my lungs burn, and then let it out in a white cloud against the glass. Then I get out of the car. The front door opens before I can ring the bell. Trina. She stands framed in the doorway, wearing a cream-colored cashmere dress that probably cost more than my first car. Her blonde hair is perfect. Her smile is perfect. It is a weapon. Lauren, you made it. Merry Christmas, Trina. I step inside. The warmth is immediate and suffocating. It is an assault of manufactured holiday cheer. The air is thick with boiling cinnamon, drying cedar boughs, and the sharp, chemical undertone of whatever polish she uses on the hardwood floors. Soft, instrumental hymns drift from speakers hidden in the ceiling. Every object is curated. Every ornament on the massive tree is silver or ice blue. Every ribbon is wire-edged. This is not a home. It is a magazine spread. It is Trina's statement of ownership, a meticulous campaign to scrub the memory of the woman who lived here before her. My father, Gordon Allen, looks up from the depths of his leather armchair. Lauren, Merry Christmas, kid. He smiles, but it is a reflex, not a feeling. His eyes, before they even fully meet mine, flicker to Trina. He is checking. He is always checking her expression, assessing the temperature, ensuring his greeting falls within her acceptable parameters. Merry Christmas, Dad. I hold out the small, plainly wrapped package. This is for you, Trina. She looks at the brown paper with faint, undisguised disdain. She prefers glitter. She prefers excess. Thank you, Lauren. She hands me a small, perfectly wrapped box in heavy, embossed silver paper. I know without opening it that it will be expensive, impersonal, and gray. She turns her attention back to my gift. Her long, manicured fingers work at the twine. She pulls it, letting the simple bow fall apart. She unfolds the paper slowly, deliberately. She sees the frame. It is simple. Dark walnut, heavy. I found it in my grandmother's attic, buried in a trunk of linens. I'd cleaned the wood, replaced the crumbling backing, and polished the glass. Inside is a photograph. It is not a photograph I am in. It is my father, young and smiling, his arm around my mother. My mother is holding my older brother, the one who died as a baby, before I was born. It is a piece of history, a piece of him. On the back of the frame, I had written a small, simple inscription in archival ink. Found this in Grandma's things. Thought this piece of family history should be here, with you. Trina stares at the photograph. Her face, usually so animated with the performance of hosting, goes utterly, terrifyingly still. The muscles around her mouth, usually poised in a gracious smile, tighten. It is not just stillness, it is ice. The blood drains from her face. The hymn playing softly from the ceiling swells. O holy night. What is this? Her voice is not a question. It is an accusation. It is a low, dangerous whisper that cuts through the cinnamon and cedar. It's from Grandma's house, I say. My own voice sounds thin, reedy. I found it. It's Dad, and my mother, and… I know who it is. She flips the frame over. Her eyes scan the inscription I wrote. Her knuckles, gripping the wood, are white. Weaponized nostalgia. Lauren, this is your Christmas gift? What? No. My stomach clenches. Trina, it's not. It's just a photo. It's part of the family. She hisses, her voice vibrating with a sudden violent rage. Is not my family. Trina, my father says. It is a weak warning. He does not get up from his chair. You bring her ghost into my house? Trina takes a step toward me. She is shaking. You do this on Christmas Day? She was my mother, I say, and the words feel like gravel in my mouth. She lived here. And I live here now? She raises the frame. For a second, I think she's going to throw it at the fireplace. Don't, I say, stepping forward instinctively. My hand comes up to stop her. It was Grandma's. Please, just give it back. My plea is a mistake. It is fuel. Her left hand shoots out. It is not the hand holding the frame. It is her free hand. It clamps down on my right wrist. Her grip is not a woman's grip. It is a vice. Her nails, perfectly filed, dig into my skin like 4 small talons. Let go, I gasp, stunned by the sudden, sharp pain. I try to pull my arm back. The motion is too much. My resistance, her grip, the sudden physics of the struggle. The heavy frame slips from her other hand. Time fractures. It falls. It hits the polished hardwood floor. The sound is not a simple crash. It is an explosion, a sharp, echoing crack as the old wood splinters at the corner, followed by the sickening, crystalline shatter of the glass. It does not just break, it sprays. 1,000 tiny, glittering fragments skitter across the floor, scattering like sharp, silver rain. They stop just shy of the pristine white rug. We are both frozen. The music is still playing. Fall on your knees. I stare at the wreckage, at the exposed photograph of my mother, lying face up amid the shards. I look at Trina. The mask of ice is gone. Her face is alive. It is contorted with a pure, unfiltered, white-hot rage that I have only seen in brief, terrifying flashes before. Now, it is fully uncloaked. My hand, the one she had gripped, is still half raised, reaching for the frame that is already destroyed. Trina moves. Her right hand comes up. It is not a push, it is a strike. Her open palm connects with my left cheek. The sound is flat, wet, and ugly. It echoes in the vaulted ceiling, louder than the music, louder than the crackling fire. My head snaps to the side. A bright, sharp ringing fills my left ear. My eyes water. Before I can even register the shock, the pain, she hits me again. A backhand, with the same hand. This one catches the right corner of my mouth. You, she snarls, the word a guttural sound of pure hatred. Then she shoves me, with both hands, a hard, violent push aimed at my chest. I am untethered. I stumble backward, my balance gone. My heel catches on the leg of the ornate hall table Trina bought last year. I twist, flailing, my arms finding no purchase in the air. My momentum carries me sideways. The side of my head and my shoulder collide with the sharp, carved corner of the newel post at the base of the main staircase. A blinding, biting pain. I collapse, sliding down the polished wood of the post, landing in a heap on the bottom step. The room is utterly silent. The hymns have stopped, or maybe the ringing in my ears has just become a roar. I taste copper, metallic and hot. I raise a shaking hand to my head. just above my temple, right at the hairline. My fingers come away wet, red. I look at my fingers. The blood is bright against my skin. It's not a lot, but it's there. I look up. My father is standing now. He has finally moved from his chair. He is standing in the middle of the room, halfway between his armchair and the staircase. He is looking at me, crumpled on his floor. He sees the blood on my fingers. He looks at Trina. She is standing over the shattered glass, breathing heavily, her chest heaving, her hands clenched at her sides. This is the moment, the pivot, the point where the story could change. Gordon Allen looks back at me. His face is not concern. It is not anger. It is a mask of profound disappointment, and it is aimed only at me. He walks forward, past Trina. He stops 3 feet in front of me. He does not offer me a hand. He does not ask if I am hurt. He looks down at me, his daughter, bleeding on his floor on Christmas Day. Be grateful she accepted it, Lauren. The words hit me harder than her hand. They knock the air from my lungs. Be grateful. Be grateful for the assault. Be grateful for the acceptance of a gift that ended with my blood on her floor. The air in the room becomes thin, unbreathable. My father turns his back on me. Trina is already in motion. The rage is gone, instantly replaced by a cold, brittle efficiency. It was an accident, she announces to the room, to my father, to the invisible speakers. She slipped. She tripped. She walks past me, ignoring me as if I am a piece of furniture she has knocked over. She goes to the hall closet, and I hear the rattle of a brush and dustpan. She returns and kneels. Shh, shh, shh. The sound of her sweeping the glass, sweeping the evidence, sweeping my mother's face into a metal pan. My father lets out a long-suffering sigh. It is a sound he perfected years ago. Come on, Lolly, he mutters, and the use of my childhood nickname feels like acid. He grabs my arm, pulling me roughly to my feet. The room spins. The cut on my head stings, and fresh blood runs down my temple. He doesn't hug me. He steers me. He pushes me toward the small guest bathroom off the foyer, the one she decorated in pointless nautical maps and tiny, useless soaps. Just clean yourself up, he whispers, his hand hot on my back. Don't make a scene. It's Christmas. Don't ruin the holiday. He pushes me inside and closes the door. I am alone. The silence of the small room is absolute. The light is a cold, unforgiving fluorescent ring around the mirror. I grip the edges of the marble sink. My reflection stares back, a stranger with wild, wet eyes, a split lip, and blood matting the hair at her temple. The cut is small, 1/2 inch, but it's deep. My hands are shaking. I turn on the cold water and let it run over my wrists. I lock the door. The small, quiet click of the deadbolt is a fortification, a line drawn. I reach into my back pocket. My phone is there. My training kicks in. The muscle memory from my job at Northbridge Risk and Audit. We are taught. Document everything. You do not exist without a paper trail. Contemporaneous notes. Objective, verifiable evidence. I open the camera app. My hands are still trembling, but my mind is suddenly terribly clear. I turn my head, angling the cut toward the bright, cruel light of the mirror. I lift my wet hair away from the wound. The phone's lens focuses. The quiet click of the shutter is the loudest sound I have ever heard. It is a gunshot. It is a gavel. It is a declaration. I take 3 more photos. A close-up of the laceration, a wider angle showing my face, the blood, one of my split lip, one of the red marks on my wrist where her nails dug in. I spend the next 10 minutes washing the blood from my face. I find a box of fabric Band-Aids in Trina's perfectly organized vanity. I press one against the cut. It barely sticks. When I finally unlock the door and step out, the hallway is empty. The glass is gone. The frame is gone. The photograph is gone. In the living room, Trina is sitting on the sofa, sipping a glass of white wine. My father is back in his armchair, the newspaper held up in front of his face. I'm leaving, I say. My voice is a dry rasp. Don't be dramatic. Lauren, my father says from behind the paper. It's Christmas. I'm going. I walk to the front closet and pull out my coat. I grab my purse. Trina moves. She rises from the sofa in one fluid, graceful motion. She intercepts me at the front door, placing her body between me and the exit. She smiles. It is a tight, reptilian smile that does not reach her eyes. She leans in close. Her breath smells of Sauvignon Blanc and cinnamon. She places her hand on my shoulder. Her fingers dig in, a gesture that anyone watching would see as comfort, but I feel as a threat, a reminder of her grip. Don't make this a thing, she whispers. The words are not a request. They are a command, sharp as the glass she just swept up. It was a silly accident. We all just got a little emotional. I look at her hand on my shoulder. I look into her cold, victorious eyes. I say nothing. I shrug her hand off me, turn, and open the front door. The blast of cold. Clean air feels like surfacing for air. The snow is falling harder now. Thick, heavy flakes that melt the second they hit the windshield. I sit in the car. The engine is off. The silence of the insulated cab is a blessing. This was not a flare-up. This was not a momentary loss of control. This was the summit. This was the inevitable peak of a decade of systematic erasure, quiet manipulation, and emotional battery. This was not an accident. This was a pattern reaching its conclusion. I pull out my phone. The screen is cold to the touch. I open a new text message. I type in my own number as the recipient. It's a habit from work. It creates an indisputable, uneditable, time-stamped record. My fingers fly across the glass. December 25th, 5:17 p.m., location, 1225 Hawthorne Drive, Ravenport, Pennsylvania. Incident: physical assault by Trina Caldwell following presentation of gift, photo frame. Actions: Trina grabbed right wrist, causing frame to drop and shatter. Trina struck me twice with an open hand. Face: shoved me backward into newel post. Injury: laceration to left temple / hairline, bleeding, bruising on right wrist, split lower lip. Witness: Gordon Allen. Witness statement: be grateful she accepted it. Perpetrator statement: post-incident: it was an accident. Subsequent threat: at exit. Don't make this a thing. I read it over twice. Objective, factual, the way my boss, Director Sable, demands. I hit send. The small whoosh of the message delivering is a promise. I start the car. The engine roars to life. The wipers clear the snow from the glass. I am an auditor. I audit risk, and I have just identified the single greatest liability in my life. The audit begins now. I drive. I do not know where I am going. I only know I am leaving. The windshield wipers beat a frantic, hypnotic rhythm, scraping the wet snow away. Scrape, hiss, scrape, hiss. The Band-Aid on my temple is already saturated, and I feel a cold trickle of displaced blood and melted snow slide past my eyebrow. I wipe it away with the back of my glove, leaving a dark smear on the black leather. My car is an island of silence, save for the wipers and my own ragged breathing. The dashboard clock reads 5:41 p.m. It has been less than 30 minutes. My life is neatly bisected. There is the time before my father told me to be grateful for an assault, and there is the time after. This is not a new story. This is just the final chapter of an old one. The attack, the blood, the shattered glass. That was not the beginning. It was the punctuation, the period at the end of a very long, very carefully constructed sentence. The ribbon on the box was just a prop. Underneath it, the mold was always there. It started the first winter she was in the house. I was 18, a freshman in college, home for my first Christmas break. I was looking for the box, the heavy-duty plastic tub, marked Mom. Ornaments in my father's blocky handwriting. It held everything. The lopsided clay angels I made in kindergarten, the delicate, hand-blown German glass balls my mother inherited from her own mother, the goofy, felt reindeer with the one missing antler. They were not there. The attic, which had been a kingdom of organized history, was now sterile. Empty tubs lined the walls, all bearing Trina's neat, cursive labels printed from her machine: winter linens, fall decor, harvest, spring, floral. I found her downstairs, directing my father on where to hang a massive, pre-lit garland that smelled of plastic pine. "Trina, where's the box of my mom's ornaments?" She did not look at me. She pointed a long, red-nailed finger at the archway. "Gordon, higher, to the left. It's sagging." My father grunted, straining on the small stepladder. "Trina?" She finally turned. Her smile was bright, patient, as if speaking to a child who had interrupted. "Oh, those… Yes, such a jumble of things, darling. I found them when I was organizing the attic this fall." "Where are they?" "They're perfectly safe," she said, her voice dropping into that smooth, reasonable tone that always set my teeth on edge. "I put them into storage, a climate-controlled unit. So many of them looked fragile, and this attic gets so terribly damp. I wouldn't want them to be ruined by mold." "Storage? Where?" "Don't you worry your head about it." She patted my arm. "They're being kept safe. This year, we're doing a theme: silver and ice blue. Isn't it elegant?" The lopsided clay angels were never seen again. The German glass balls vanished. When I pressed my father, alone, he just sighed that long-suffering sigh, the one I saw today. "Lauren, just keep the peace. It's just… stuff. Trina's put so much work into making the house beautiful for the holiday. Don't make waves." Keep the peace, my father's mantra. The gospel of Gordon Allen. Keep the peace. Kid, it was the bargain he offered, again and again, your silence in exchange for my quiet life, your memories, your feelings, your presence, all traded for his ability to sit in his leather armchair and not be bothered. The erasure escalated. By my junior year of college, the campaign was nearly complete. I was at my aunt's house in Ohio for Thanksgiving. My father and Trina had gone to Cabo. Just us this year. Lolly, a romantic getaway. My aunt, my mother's sister, was showing me the annual Christmas card she'd received from them. It was printed on heavy, cream-colored cardstock. On the front was a professional photograph. My father and Trina, beaming, standing on the porch of the Hawthorne house. Between them stood a young girl, about 10 years old, with blonde hair and Trina's sharp features. "Who's that?" I asked, my finger hovering over the girl's face. "That's Trina's niece, isn't it? From her sister in Oregon." I flipped the card over, a printed message about the joys of the season, and below it, a caption in Trina's flowing script: "Wishing you a blessed holiday. With love, Gordon, Trina, and our daughter, Evelyn." Our daughter. The air left my lungs. I was not in the photograph. I had not been invited to the photo session. I was 2,000 miles away at school, and she had replaced me. She had written me out of the family narrative and photocopied it for every relative to see. I called my father from my aunt's guest room. The card clutched in my hand. My voice was shaking. "Dad, I saw the Christmas card. You called her niece your daughter?" I heard muffled sounds. Trina's voice in the background. Then my father's voice, tired, irritated. "Lauren, for God's sake, it's just a word. Her father's out of the picture. Trina's trying to make her feel included. It's not about you." "It's not about me. You sent a picture of your family and I'm not in it. You were at school. What did you want us to do? Fly you home for a snapshot? You're being hysterical. You're an adult. Stop trying to pick fights. Just keep the peace." The line went dead. I stood there, listening to the dial tone, realizing that peace was just the word he used for my total surrender. Trina's control was absolute, but it was surgical. She never used a hammer when a scalpel would do. Christmas was her theater, her grandest production. My invitations always came late, via text, as if I were an afterthought. "Oh, Lauren, of course you're welcome on the 25th. We just assumed you knew. We eat at 4. Could you pick up a pecan pie? And the good napkins?" I was demoted from daughter to utility. I was the help. I was assigned to ferry coats upstairs, to refill wine glasses, to clear plates while Trina held court, telling charming anecdotes about her family, her charity work, her flawless renovations. My father would watch her, his eyes full of a kind of desperate admiration. His loyalty was her entry fee, and he paid it, over and over, with pieces of me. The year I turned 23, I tried to buy my way back in. I had just started at Northbridge. I was good with numbers. I saw my father struggling with the new mortgage rates. The variable rate on the house was about to balloon. I spent 3 weeks of my own time running comps, building spreadsheets, and shopping rates. I found him a locked-in 30-year fixed rate at 3.1%. I prepared all the paperwork for the refi. I walked him through the signing. I saved him, conservatively, over $1,000 a month. "Thanks, kid," he'd said, ruffling my hair. "You're a lifesaver." 3 weeks later, a brand-new, pearl-white Cadillac Escalade appeared in the driveway. The bow was big enough to cover the grille. "A little thank you," Trina announced on social media, posting a photo of herself kissing my father next to the car. "For my brilliant husband, who is so savvy he managed to refinance the house all on his own and save us a fortune. A king deserves his chariot." When I confronted him, he stammered, "Well, Trina, she handles the household finances. It was her idea to look into it. You just helped with the forms." Trina took the credit. Trina got the car. I got an education. That was when the ledger started. Not on paper. I'm an auditor. I live in data. I created an encrypted, password-protected file on a thumb drive that I keep in a fireproof safe in my apartment. I named it Caldwell Audit Current. It began as a place to vent, a digital diary of the lies, the slights, the gaslighting. But my professional training took over. It became a log. Date, incident, quote, financial impact. When I turned 26, the ledger changed from a personal history to a financial one. I was helping my father with his tax prep. He was complaining about his write-offs. He handed me a shoebox of receipts and access to his joint checking account. Trina was meticulous, but she was arrogant. She assumed no one was looking. I saw the line item, a recurring monthly payment, $4,000, Caldwell Home Strategy, LLC. "Dad, what's this? $4,000 a month to an LLC?" He squinted at the screen. "Oh, that's Trina's business. Household consulting." "You're paying your wife $4,000 a month for household consulting? For this house?" He flushed. "It's just marital accounting. Lauren, it's how our lawyers structured things. For tax purposes. It's none of your business. It's our money." Our money. I spent that night digging. Caldwell Home Strategy, LLC, formed 10 years ago, right after she married him. Sole proprietor, Trina Caldwell. It was a shell, a legal funnel, a way to siphon money from their joint account, money that was half my father's, and put it into an account that was solely hers. I took a screenshot of the bank statement. I took a screenshot of the LLC registration. I added them to the ledger. Date, April 14th. Amount, $4,000, monthly. Action, funneling joint assets to private LLC. Quote, "It's just marital accounting." The ledger grew. The text message she sent him, which I saw over his shoulder. "Tell Lauren we can't help with her car payment. Money is too tight." Dated 2 days after the Escalade arrived, the email from the family jeweler, confirming the appraisal of my mother's engagement ring, which Trina had claimed was lost, the catering bill for her charity luncheon, paid for from my father's household account. A private ledger of disrespect, a meticulous record of the 1,000 cuts. My mother, the woman whose picture was just shattered on the floor, became a ghost, worse than a ghost. She was the before time. She was an inconvenience, a piece of old, unfashionable furniture that Trina had successfully stored away. I stop the car at a red light. The snow is thick on the windshield. I look at the dark smear of my own blood on my glove. That photo frame, it wasn't just a photo, it was a test, A small, gentle bridge. I was trying to hand him a piece of his own history, a piece of the before time she hadn't managed to find and erase. I was testing if there was any of him left under her polish. He failed. Today wasn't an anomaly, it was the pattern. Fully realized, the erasure of my mother, the replacement of me, the financial siphoning, the manipulation of my father, it all led to this, to her hand on my face and his words at my back. I watched the light turn green. The bridge I offered is gone. It is a pile of ash and splintered glass on her perfect, polished floor. And as I pull away, I understand. You cannot audit a system that is fundamentally corrupt. You have to burn it down and build a new one. I didn't go home. I went to my own apartment in the city, the one-bedroom fortress I'd built for myself. 90 minutes away from Ravenport. I didn't sleep. Sleep was impossible. The adrenaline from the confrontation had evaporated, leaving behind a dull, throbbing ache that started in my temple and radiated down my jaw. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the spray of glass. I heard my father's voice. Be grateful. At 3 a.m. on December 26th, I gave up on rest. I went to my desk. Pain needs a purpose. Rage needs a channel. My mind, trained for a decade to find patterns in chaos, clicked into professional gear. I was no longer a daughter. I was an auditor. And this was no longer a family dispute. This was a hostile takeover. I turned on my dual monitors. The bright light stung my eyes. I made coffee, black and scalding. I started with the known entity, Caldwell Home Strategy, LLC, the shell corporation I'd found years ago, the one siphoning $4,000 a month from the joint account. I opened the Pennsylvania Department of State business portal. I typed in the name. The entity search returned a result, but it was not what I expected. The LLC's status was withdrawn. A new entry sat below it. Filing date, November 30th, just last month. Entity name, Caldwell Hearth Foundation. My blood went cold. She had changed tactics. She had evolved. An LLC is private, grubby. A foundation is public, respectable. It is a shield. It is a weapon of public opinion. Trina, the philanthropist. Trina, the community pillar. I pulled the Articles of Incorporation, a nonprofit. Mission: to provide support and resources for families navigating hardship in the Ravenport area. I cross-referenced the state charity database. Yes, registered. I found their public disclosure forms, the ones required for tax-exempt status. The pain in my head sharpened into a bright, clear focus. I scanned the financials. It was new, so the data was thin, but the projections were bold, and the administrative costs were astronomical. 80% of incoming funds were earmarked for administrative oversight, community outreach consulting, and operational management. I clicked the tab for the Board of Directors. President, Trina Caldwell. Treasurer, Gordon Allen. Secretary, Etta Reese. I didn't know Etta. I kept digging. I found the vendor list attached to their initial operating budget. One vendor stood out. Wester and Vale Interiors. I knew that name. I ran a new search. Wester and Vale Interiors, LLC. The registered agent was Jenna Vale, Trina's best friend, the one she played tennis with at the club. I looked back at the foundation's budget. The line item for Wester and Vale was $22,000. The description? Sourcing for holiday improvement initiatives. It was a classic loop. Money would come into the foundation, likely from my father's accounts or from donors he strong-armed, and be paid out immediately to her friend's shell company, which would then, I had no doubt, kick the majority of it right back to Trina. It was her LLC, just laundered through the veneer of charity. The foundation was Vector 1. Now for Vector 2, the assets. I logged into the Atlas County Register of Deeds portal. I paid the $12 fee to pull the records for 1225 Hawthorne Drive. My mother's name was gone, of course. That had happened years ago, but this was new. A quitclaim deed, filed 6 months ago. My father had transferred the property from Gordon Allen, a sole individual, to Gordon Allen and Trina Caldwell, as joint tenants with right of survivorship. The legal term was a punch to the gut, right of survivorship. It meant the house was no longer his to bequeath. It was not part of his estate. The moment his heart stopped beating, the property would not go to probate. It would bypass any will. It would bypass me. It would become hers, fully and instantly, as if I had never existed. My hands were shaking. She was insulating herself. She was severing my claims, one by one. This led me to the third, and most critical, vector, the trust. My grandparents, the Pierces, had set up a revocable trust for my mother. When she died, it split. Half went to my father, half was held for me, to be distributed in portions as I aged. My father was the trustee. I was the sole remaining beneficiary. I kept a copy of the trust documents in my digital safe, the same encrypted drive where I kept my audit log. I opened the PDF. And then I saw it. The email. I still had delegated access to my father's email account, a relic from when I used to help him organize his digital life before Trina declared it her job. I opened his inbox. It was in his sent folder, from 3 months ago. He had forwarded an email to Trina. It was an email I had sent him. It was my annual benefit statement from Northbridge, my salary, my bonus structure, my 41K contributions. I had sent it to him to show him I was doing well, to make him proud. He had forwarded it to her. Her reply, 1 hour later. Thank you. Gee, this is very helpful for our long-term planning. I'll have the lawyers make the updates based on this. My blood felt like ice water. What updates? I went back to my digital safe. I opened my copy of the Pierce Allen Family Revocable Trust. I scrolled to the addendums. There it was, Addendum 4B. Date, 3 months ago, the week after she received my salary information. It was a single, devastating clause. It rewrote the distribution terms. My inheritance was no longer a simple, mandated payout at specific ages. The new subclause read, all distributions to the beneficiary, Lauren B. Allen, are subject to review and approval by the designated household guardian, who may modify, delay, or withhold said distributions at their sole discretion to ensure the beneficiary's long-term financial stability and to protect the principle of the trust from imprudent use. Guardian, a term usually reserved for minors or the incapacitated. I scrolled to the definitions page. Household guardian, Trina Caldwell. She had done it. She had convinced him that I, a 29-year-old senior auditor, was incapable of managing my own inheritance. She had used my own salary as proof that I needed guidance. She had made herself the gatekeeper. She had given herself the legal right to steal from me, wrapped in the language of protection. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and dry-heaved over the toilet. The cut on my head throbbed. This wasn't just about money. This was about erasure. This was about declaring me unfit, an incompetent child, so she could become the sole recipient of my father's entire legacy. I splashed cold water on my face. The face in the mirror was pale, bruised, and furious. I went back to the computer. The audit was not finished. If she had the power, when would she use it? I logged into the shared family calendar he and I used to use. Trina managed it now. Of course, I scanned the entries. December 28th, 2 days from now. A calendar event, marked private, but I had legacy admin access. I clicked. Event title, Holiday Relief Fund Transfer. Notes, Annual Distribution Transfer to TSC, Guardian Account per Addendum 4B. The amount listed was exact. It was the full annual distribution I was scheduled to receive. She wasn't just planning to manage it, she was planning to take it, all of it, in 2 days. The assault, the violence, it made sense now. It was the arrogance of someone who believed she had already won. She had the house. She had the trust. She had my father. I was just a loose end. And she had decided, on Christmas Day, to tie me off. My rage became a cold, clean, quiet engine. I began to work. Every discovery, I documented, screenshot, save as PDF, export. I ran a hash algorithm on every single file. A Shea 256 digital fingerprint. This, I knew, made them verifiable in court. It proved they had not been tampered with since this exact moment. I compiled everything into a new, encrypted folder. I named it ELK, Evidence, Ledger, Keys. I uploaded the LK folder to a secure, cold storage server based in Switzerland, one my firm used for sensitive clients. I wiped the local files. My protocol was complete. Now, I needed the law. I opened my email. I composed a new message. To Marisol. Greer Legal. Subject urgent consultation, Allen Family Trust. Marisol. I require an emergency consultation. I am available at your earliest convenience, ideally this morning, December 26th. I have compiled a file containing time-stamped evidence of physical assault, systematic financial malfeasance, provable intent to commit wire fraud, and potential elder fraud. Please confirm availability. I will bring the evidence file. Regards, Lauren Allen. I hit send. It was 4:32 a.m. One last thing. I thought about the house, the cameras. I had bought and installed that entire smart home security system 2 years ago, a gift from my father so I could know he was safe. The irony was bitter. I opened my email again. I sent a new message to my father's email address, knowing Trina monitored it. Subject: Legal hold. Data preservation request. This email serves as a formal legal notice to preserve all data recorded by the home security system at 1225 Hawthorne Drive, from December 25th through the present date. This includes all video and audio from all cameras, including the foyer and living room. Failure to preserve this data will be considered spoliation of evidence. A copy was automatically sent to the security provider's legal department. Let her try to delete it now. My phone buzzed. A reply from Marisol. I'm in the office. See you at 7 a.m. I closed the laptop. My work was done. I went to my phone's camera roll. I looked at the photos I had taken in that bathroom. The cut. The split lip. I had taken a live photo. I pressed my finger to the screen. The image flickered to life. 1.5 seconds of motion before the snap. 1.5 seconds after. It was blurry. A mess of motion as I angled the phone at the mirror, but in that tiny window of time, in the reflection off the polished brass handle of the bathroom door, which was still cracked open. It was there. A blur of cream-colored cashmere, an arm, a hand, not raised in defense, not flailing in an accident. A hand at the apex of its swing, blurred as it descended toward me. I watched it loop, once, twice, 10 times. The reflection did not lie. The data did not lie. I saved the video clip as a new file. I hashed it. I added it to the ELK. The sun was not up yet, but the darkness had broken. The pain in my head was still there, but it was no longer pain. It was evidence. Marisol Greer's office at 7 a.m. on the morning of December 26th was a fortress of quiet, competent rage. It smelled of industrial-strength coffee and old law books. Marisol was not a lawyer who offered tissues. She offered printouts. She was all sharp angles, sharp suits, and a mind that moved faster than mine, which was why I paid her. I sat across from her massive, clean desk, the cut on my temple throbbing under a new bandage. I had not slept. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving a bruised, hollow feeling. The ELK file is immaculate, she said, tapping her stylus against the monitor. She had already ingested the entire encrypted drive I'd sent. The hash fingerprints are clean. The timeline is verifiable. The addendum to the trust is, frankly, audacious. And this? She froze the live photo clip. The reflection in the brass door handle, the blur of cream-colored cashmere, the arm raised, the motion of the strike. This is our linchpin. It's blurry, but it's undeniably the motion of an attack, not a defense. What's the first move? I asked. My voice was a dry rasp. This is a war on 2 fronts, Marisol said. She held up 2 fingers, like a general briefing troops. Front 1 is the assault, the physical, the immediate. Front 2 is the financial, the trust, the foundation, the fraud. That is the systemic rot. We attack both, simultaneously. She pushed a stack of papers toward me. Front 1 starts now. You will drive to the Ravenport precinct. You will file a police report for simple assault. You will give them the photos of your injuries. You will give them the time-stamped text message you sent yourself. You will give them this video clip. All of it? No, she snapped. Not all of it. You are not giving them the ELCA file. You are not giving them the trust documents. You are giving them only the evidence of the assault. You are creating a public record, a case number. That is our ammunition. With that case number, I petition the court for an emergency protective order. We get Trina Caldwell legally barred from contacting you, threatening you, or coming within 500 feet of you. And Front 2? That, Marisol said, a grim smile touching her lips, is where we gut her. We file a separate civil claim. We sue for medical costs, battery, pain and suffering, but that's just the appetizer. At the same time, we file an emergency petition in probate court to have Trina Caldwell immediately removed as the designated household guardian of the Pierce Allen Trust. We argue she has acted with demonstrable malice, has already demonstrated intent to defraud the beneficiary, you, and is financially and morally unfit to serve in any fiduciary capacity. She'll fight it. Of course she will. She'll say it was an accident. She'll say you're hysterical, and that, Marisol said, is why we sent the data preservation notice to the security company last night, because the FOIA camera footage she's now legally required to preserve will show exactly what happened. She can't lie her way around high-definition video. I left her office and drove to the precinct. The entire process was sterile and anticlimactic. A bored officer with a thick mustache took my statement. He looked at the photo of the bloody gash on my head with the same mild interest he might have for a parking violation. He watched the live photo clip twice. He grunted. "You'll get a case number in the mail," he said. "I need it now," I said. He sighed, typed for another minute, and tore a small white slip from his printer. Case 922, VG. I walked back to my car, the cold air stinging my face. I took a photo of the slip and texted it to Marisol. Then, I opened a new message to my father. My hands were perfectly steady. This was not a plea, it was a notification. I have filed a police report regarding the assault yesterday. Case number 922, VG. I have been advised to have no further contact. If you are contacted by investigators, I suggest you stick to the objective facts. The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. They pulsed for a long, agonizing minute. Then, the reply came. One word. Cruel. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "This has gone too far." Not, "Let me fix this." Cruel. I was cruel for reporting an assault. I was cruel for breaking the family silence. I was cruel for bringing a fact into a world he had built entirely on comforting fictions. His choice was made. I stared at the word until it blurred. It was the sound of a final door locking. I turned my phone to silent. I was not prepared for the speed of her counterattack. Trina didn't need facts. She had social media. By the time I was back in my apartment, my phone, even on silent, was vibrating violently on the kitchen counter, a cascade of notifications. Trina's Instagram story. It was a photo, beautifully composed, an overhead shot, looking down at the gleaming hardwood floor. In the center, the artfully scattered, glittering remains of the shattered picture frame. She had even placed the splintered walnut corner in the frame, just so. The caption was written in her elegant, scrolling font. Heartbroken. When you try to welcome someone into your home for Christmas, and they bring this kind of ungrateful, chaotic energy, some gifts, sadly, come with a knife attached, praying for peace and healing for all. It was brilliant. It was vague. It was vicious. It painted me as the source of the chaos. It implied I was the knife. The messages pouring in confirmed her narrative had taken root. An aunt I hadn't spoken to in 6 months. "Lauren, I just saw Trina's post. What on earth did you do? She is a saint for putting up with your moods. You need to apologize immediately. A former neighbor, Lauren. Honey, I know the holidays are hard without your mom. 'Tis the season, but taking it out on Trina is not the answer. She has been nothing but kind. My own cousin. Did you throw something at her? That's what everyone is saying. You need help. I watched the texts stack up. A digital avalanche of blame. They were all responding to her smokescreen. I methodically muted each conversation. I took screenshots of every message. I exported the data. The smokescreen was loud, but it was not evidence. The next day, the smoke found its way to my office. An email from my boss, Director Sable, appeared at 8 a.m. The subject line, article. The body of the email contained only a link. It was to the Ravenport Weekly, the local gossip paper. The headline was a masterpiece of slander. Local philanthropist's holiday, marred by family drama. Daughter, weaponizes home regulations. My blood ran cold. The article, citing sources close to the family, painted me as a volatile and unstable daughter. It claimed I had threatened my long-suffering stepmother and peacemaking father with legal action over minor household disagreements. It spun my legal data preservation request as a bizarre act of aggression. My desk phone rang. It was Sable. "Alan," he said. His voice was not friendly. "Sir, I've seen the article." "This is a problem," he said. "We audit municipal contracts. We audit public trusts. My senior auditors cannot be the subject of public gossip articles, fabricated or not. It compromises our air of neutrality. It's a malicious, fabricated story. Director, it's a smear campaign." "I don't care what it is," he snapped. "I care what it looks like. Maybe you should take some personal days. Use your holiday leave. Let this situation cool down." "No, sir," I said. My voice was low and cold. "Respectfully, I will not. Taking leave would be seen as an admission of guilt. I am the victim of a crime, and I am the subject of this campaign because of it. I will continue to perform my duties." There was a long, cold silence on the line. "As you wish, Alan," he finally said. "But from this point forward, all communications between you and this office will be in writing. I want weekly progress reports on all your active files, and I want all your findings co-signed by a senior manager. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir." He hung up. She had done it. She had reached into my career. She had tainted me. This was no longer just about the house or the money. This was about my survival. That afternoon, I shifted my focus to track 2, the Caldwell Hearth Foundation. Trina had been busy building her narrative. The foundation's new Facebook page was her primary tool. The centerpiece was a post from Christmas Eve. It was a photo of Trina and her friend Etta, the foundation's secretary, standing in front of a massive stack of canned goods. They were wearing matching red reindeer sweaters. The caption, "So blessed to spend our Christmas Eve delivering this amazing donation to the Ravenport Community Food Bank. This is what the Hearth Foundation is all about. Giving back." The comments were fawning. "An angel! Ravenport is lucky to have you. Trina!" I looked at the picture, my auditor's brain, the one Sable had just put on probation. Kicked into high gear. Something was wrong. The lighting. It was too bright for Christmas Eve. Through the window behind them, I could see a tree. The leaves were green. I downloaded the original image file from the page. I ran the file through an EXIF data reader. Date taken, September 5th, 3:34 p.m. She had faked a Christmas Eve donation with a photograph from 3 months ago. My heart was hammering. This was it. This was the first, verifiable, public lie. This was fraud. I grabbed my keys. The Ravenport Community Food Bank was in the damp, cold basement of the Lutheran church. The director, a tired-looking woman named Ms. Davis, was wearing 3 sweaters and trying to fix a broken space heater. "Can I help you?" she asked, not looking up. "My name is Lauren Allen. I'm a private auditor. I'm conducting a review of a local nonprofit, the Caldwell Hearth Foundation." That got her attention. She stood up. Never heard of it. They posted on their Facebook page that they made a large food donation to you on Christmas Eve. Ms. Davis let out a short, harsh laugh. They did what? We were closed on Christmas Eve, and the day before, and we haven't received a single can from any Hearth Foundation ever. We've been begging for donations. That pantry, she pointed to a set of painfully empty shelves, is our reality. Would you be willing to sign a sworn statement to that effect? Her eyes narrowed. What's this about, really? It's about a woman using your organization's good name to raise money that she intends to keep. Ms. Davis walked to her desk and pulled a piece of paper from her printer. Tell me what to write. I walked out 10 minutes later with a notarized affidavit. Have never received any monetary or in-kind donation from the Caldwell Hearth Foundation. This was better than the police report. This was ammunition. I made one more call on the drive home, to Ben, a friend from my Northbridge training days, a forensic accountant who lived for this stuff. Ben, I have a hypothetical, I said. I laid out the entire structure, the LLC, the foundation, the vendor payments to the best friend, the fake donation photos. He was quiet. When he finally spoke, he was giddy. That's not a hypothetical. Lauren, that's a classic cycle. It's money laundering. Plain and simple. She's not even being creative. She's moving assets from her husband, washing them through a charity vehicle, and paying herself back through an inflated vendor contract with her friend. It's clean, it's tidy, and it's a felony. Can you prove it? If you can get me the bank statements, Ben said, I can draw you a map of every dollar, complete with arrows. I hung up. I looked at my desk. On one side, Trina's attack, a blurry Instagram story, a slanderous, anonymous article, a flurry of angry texts from misinformed relatives. On my side, a police report, a case number, a notarized affidavit from a food bank director, a digital trail of fraudulent incorporation, and a forensic accountant on standby. Trina's smokescreen was thick, and it was loud, and it was designed to choke me. But I am an auditor. I do not need smoke. I just need the receipts, and I was going to get every last one. The invitation arrived on the evening of the 27th, exactly 48 hours after the assault and 24 hours after her smear campaign began. It was a text message from my father. Lauren, please come to the house for dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Trina feels terrible and wants to apologize. Just the three of us. No drama. Please, let's fix this. No drama. The words he used to silence me my entire life. I screenshotted the text and sent it to Marisol. My phone rang 2 seconds later. It's an ambush, she said, her voice sharp, no preamble. The police report has been processed. They've been notified. The article in the Weekly didn't shut you up. So now they're moving to phase 2. Containment. This is not an apology. This is a settlement negotiation, and they plan to intimidate you into signing. So I don't go, I said, my stomach tightening. Oh, you go, Marisol replied, and I could hear the grim smile in her voice. You go, and you are polite, and you say nothing. You are a black hole. You absorb everything, and you go prepared. I have something for you. Swing by the office. The something was a digital audio recorder, no bigger than a coat button. It was impossibly thin, designed for corporate espionage. Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state. Lauren, she warned me as I turned it over in my palm, that means this recording is not admissible in a criminal court, but in a civil proceeding? To prove malice in a probate court hearing about your trust? To impeach her testimony when she lies on the stand? It's a bomb. They will threaten you. They will try to buy you. Let them talk. I went home. I spent 20 minutes meticulously sewing the recorder into the front seam of my black cashmere sweater, right over my sternum. I brought my regular cell phone as a decoy. I would place it on the table. Face up, they would assume I was recording with that. They would perform for the decoy. The real recorder would capture what they said when they thought they were safe. I pulled up to the house at 7 o'clock on the dot. Every light was on. It was illuminated like a fortress. a beacon of defiant normalcy. My father opened the door. He looked like he had aged 10 years since Christmas. His skin was gray, his eyes bloodshot and haunted. He couldn't look at me. "Lauren, you came. Good. That's good." He led me to the dining room. Trina was already there. She was standing by the table, which was set for a state dinner. It was a grotesque display of perfection. A massive, thorny centerpiece of white roses and holly, her best china, the kind with the gold filigree, a dozen candles burned in silver candelabras. And the music, it was still playing. The same loop of instrumental Christmas carols from 2 days ago. Silent Night drifted from the hidden speakers, a soundtrack for a horror movie. This was not a dinner, it was a set piece. "Lauren, darling," Trina said. She moved toward me, her arms half raised as if for a hug. I did not move. She stopped, her arms falling awkwardly to her sides. She was wearing a silk blouse. Her hair was perfect. She looked serene. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice dripping with a practiced, gentle sorrow. We sat. My father poured wine. His hand was shaking so badly that the neck of the bottle rattled against the rim of my glass, and a splash of red Merlot hit the white tablecloth. Trina's eye twitched, a tiny, violent spasm. She stared at the red stain. That, more than anything, told me she was terrified. She folded her hands on the table. The performance began. "Lauren," she started, her eyes glistening with manufactured tears. I don't even know where to begin. Christmas was a horror. I am so sorry. I cannot imagine what came over me." I said nothing. I just watched her. The tiny recorder under my sweater was capturing every breath. "The holidays, you know," she continued, a small, sad laugh escaping her. "All the ghosts of the past. I saw the photograph of your mother, and it was a shock. It was just a terrible, emotional, accidental reaction. I have been sick over it. I would never, ever intentionally hurt you. You have to know that." My silence was a vacuum. It pulled at her. She needed me to respond, to absolve her, to play my part. I refused. My father jumped in, his voice rough. "Lolly, please, this police report, it's just not necessary. We're family. These things, they should be handled. Inside, quietly." I finally spoke. My voice was cold and clear. "She hit me. You watched. You told me to be grateful. Where was family then?" Trina's face hardened. The mask of sorrow cracked. The tears vanished. "That is enough," she snapped, her voice dropping to the low, venomous tone I remembered from Christmas Day. The real Trina was here. She leaned forward. "Let's be adults. Lauren, you filed a piece of paper. You've made your point. It's ugly. It's messy. It's embarrassing for all of us. So, let's undo it. You withdraw the report. You sign a statement saying it was all a misunderstanding." "In exchange for what?" I asked, my voice flat. She smiled, a thin, tight-lipped expression. "In exchange, I will make sure you are kept whole. I will, personally, see to it that you aren't sidelined, that you remain a protected part of this family." "Protected from what?" Her eyes were dead. "From complications. You have a very good job, don't you? At Northbridge, a senior auditor. I know Director Sable, just socially. Of course, your firm handles several municipal contracts, doesn't it? The City Ethics Board. They can be so fickle. It would be a terrible shame if this public, messy family business caused them to re-examine those relationships. A firm under that kind of scrutiny, they might have to clean house, just to protect their reputation, starting with the source of the drama. It was a bullet, a direct, undisguised threat at my career, my entire life. I calmly took my decoy cell phone from my pocket and placed it on the table between us. "Screen up. Are you threatening my job, Trina?" She laughed, a high, airy sound that didn't match her eyes. "Of course not. Don't be so dramatic. I'm just observing that the world is small. I protect this family. I protect its reputation. You should want that too." My father cleared his throat. He slid a simple white business envelope across the table. It stopped just short of my plate. My name was not on it. "Trina's right," he said, his voice a low mutter, his eyes fixed on the tablecloth. "This is unseemly. Let's fix this. Tonight. That's a late Christmas gift. From us. To help with whatever you need. Your apartment. A new car." I looked at the envelope. I did not touch it. "What is it?" "It's a check," he mumbled. $5,000 and a small agreement, just a piece of paper, an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. It just says we all agree to put this behind us, to keep our private family matters private. We sign. You withdraw the report, and we are whole again. The bribe, the hush money, the tiny recorder over my heart was capturing every single word. I looked from the envelope to Trina. "This is what my silence is worth? $5,000? I leaned in, my voice dropping. "Or is this coming from the foundation? A little holiday relief?" Trina picked up her wine glass. "The foundation is about stewardship. Lauren, a concept you clearly don't understand. It's about our right to manage our assets, to protect this family." "Our assets? Or my assets? From the Pierce Allen Trust?" Trina's hand stopped. The wine glass, halfway to her lips, froze in midair. Her face, so perfectly composed, collapsed. The blood drained from it. I was no longer looking at a charming hostess. I was looking at the woman who had struck me. I was looking at a cornered animal. She put the glass down. The click of it on the china charger plate was as loud as a scream. "You," she whispered, the word vibrating with a rage that shook her entire body. "You have no idea what you are messing with. You think you're smart because you found some public records? You won't survive a public fight with me. You think your little auditing job will protect you? You think he—" She gestured dismissively at my father. "Will protect you? I am this family I own it. I have built it, and I will burn you to the ground before I let you. A spiteful, ungrateful child. Tear it apart." My heart was a drum against my ribs, but my voice was ice. The recorder was getting this, all of it. And then, the confession, the diamond at the center of the trap. "Yes, I moved the money," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I'm the guardian. I have to. I am redirecting those funds to protect this household, to protect this house, from your instability. You're reckless. You're emotional. You proved it on Christmas. You cannot be trusted with that kind of money. It is my duty to manage it." The audio file was now priceless. Redirecting those funds, my duty to manage it, a direct recorded confession of fraudulent intent. I turned to my father. He was staring at his plate, his face pale and slack. "Dad, did you hear that? She's admitting it. She's admitting to stealing my inheritance." He wouldn't look at me. He just shook his head, his jowls trembling. He raised his eyes, and they were swimming with tears. They were not tears for me. They were tears for himself. He finally spoke, and he said the words that would destroy him. "Lauren, please, just listen to your stepmother." His voice was a pathetic beg. She manages everything, the house, the accounts, all of it. It's just how it is. It's for the best. She knows what she's doing. Just sign the paper. Lolly, please. She manages everything." There it was. He was not a victim. He was not a bystander. He was an accomplice. I had it. I had everything. I stood up. The scrape of my chair on the hardwood floor was a violation. Trina looked stunned. "Where are you going? We haven't eaten. You haven't signed." I picked up my decoy phone from the table. I looked at the white envelope, the $5,000 check and the NDA. I picked it up. My father let out a small, pathetic sigh of relief. He thought I was taking it. I placed the envelope squarely on my untouched salad plate, a white envelope on a bed of pristine, useless arugula. I was returning the insult. "Thank you for dinner, Trina, Dad. I turned and walked out of the dining room. I did not run. I walked, my footsteps echoing on the polished floor. I heard Trina hiss, "Gordon, stop her!" behind me, but I didn't look back. I got to my car. The night air was freezing and clean. I locked the doors. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely get the key into the ignition. I sat there in the darkness, the house blazing in my rearview mirror. I reached under my sweater. I pulled the small, warm recorder from its seam. The tiny green light was still blinking, active. I clicked it off. I pulled my laptop from the bag on my passenger seat. I plugged in the recorder. The file was there. Audio DC-27 1945 wave. I plugged in my headphones and listened to the first 30 seconds. My father's shaky voice, Trina's fake, tearful apology. The audio was crystal clear. I ran the SHA-256 hash algorithm on the file. I logged into my secure server. I uploaded the file, the audio fingerprint, and a brief summary text file into the LK folder. I created a second backup on a separate, encrypted drive. Only then, when the data was secure, when the evidence was logged, did I allow myself to feel. It came out in a single, ragged gasp that tore through my chest. The trap had been set. But I was not the one who had walked into it. I was in Marisol Greer's office at 6 a.m. on December 28th. The sun had not yet risen, but the entire glass-walled conference room was illuminated by the glow of monitors. The air smelled of hot electronics and burnt coffee. Marisol had been there all night. She had the audio file from the dinner transcribed, time-stamped, and bound. "This," she said, tapping the bound document, "is the key. The rest of the ELK file is the leverage. This transcript is the match." She read from the page, her voice a flat, legal monotone that made the words even more brutal. 9:13 p.m. I will burn you to the ground. 9:14 p.m. I am redirecting those funds to protect this household from your instability. 9:16 p.m. From Gordon Allen. She manages everything. She knows what she's doing. Just listen to your stepmother. She looked up at me, her eyes sharp. She confessed to fraud. He confessed to complicity. Today we execute. We are no longer asking. We are filing. She turned to her monitor and began pulling documents from the printer, one by one. It was a heist, performed by fax machine and court courier. First, the petition for an emergency temporary protective order, she said, signing the first document with a sharp, black signature. We are attaching the police report, the photos of your injuries, the live photo clip showing the strike, and the full transcript of last night's dinner. We are citing a direct threat of physical harm and career-related extortion. A judge will sign this by 10 a.m. She will be served by noon. She will be legally forbidden from contacting you, your employer, or coming within 500 feet of you. I felt a knot in my stomach unwind. Second, she continued, signing the next stack of pages. The emergency petition in probate court. We are moving to have Trina Caldwell immediately suspended and permanently removed as household guardian of the Pierce Allen Trust. We attach the trust addendum, your salary information from your father's email, her direct admission from the audio that she is redirecting those funds, and the affidavit from the food bank director. We argue demonstrable malice, active self-dealing, and profound fiduciary negligence. We are also petitioning for a full, court-ordered forensic audit of every account she shares with your father. Third, she said, picking up the final document, is the one that will hurt her the most. It was a formal whistleblower complaint. It was addressed to the Atlas County Charity Registry and the State Attorney General's office. This, Marisol said, a rare, grim smile on her face, attaches the fraudulent Christmas Eve photo, the EXIF data proving it was taken in September, and Ms. Davis's sworn statement. This accuses the Caldwell Hearth Foundation of engaging in a pattern of fraudulent solicitation. This moves you from a disgruntled daughter to a public whistleblower. You are no longer just protecting your inheritance. You are protecting the citizens of this county. While the courier sped to the courthouse, I had my own front to fight. I went to my office at Northbridge. Director Sable was already there, his door ominously open. The Ravenport Weekly article was open on his screen. "Allen," he said, not looking up. "You're on thin ice." "I understand, sir," I said. I stood in his doorway. "That is why I am here. I need to make a formal disclosure to Human Resources and the Ethics Committee." That got his attention. He looked up. "A disclosure?" "Yes, sir. As part of an ongoing legal matter, my stepmother, Trina Caldwell, made a direct, recorded threat against my employment here. She specifically mentioned her social relationship with you, Director, and her intent to leverage her influence to damage Northbridge's municipal contracts if I did not comply with her demands." Sable's face went from annoyed to ashen. "Furthermore," I continued, my voice steady, "I am disclosing that Ms. Caldwell's primary business entities, Caldwell Home Strategy, LLC, and the Caldwell Hearth Foundation, as well as her associates entity, Western Vale Interiors, are deeply enmeshed in the very social and political circles from which our municipal contracts are derived. Her threat indicates a willingness to use these entities as leverage. As an auditor for the firm, I am ethically bound to disclose this conflict. Her web of influence now represents a direct and stated threat to the firm's reputation." I had just turned her weapon around. She had threatened my job. I had just, professionally and procedurally, declared her an existential threat to my firm. Sable picked up his phone. "Get me legal," he said. By noon, Northbridge's Ethics Committee had opened a full internal review. Not of me, but of Trina Caldwell and every vendor associated with her, to assess any potential risk to the firm's county contracts. Trina thought she was threatening a disobedient daughter. She had no idea she had just picked a fight with the entire legal department of a multi-million-dollar auditing firm. I left the office and drove to Ravenport. I did not go to Hawthorne Drive. I went to the street behind it. Mrs. Delaney, my old neighbor, opened her back door. She was a retired ER nurse in her 70s, with eyes that had seen everything. "Lauren, child," she said, pulling me into her warm kitchen. "I saw that disgusting post from Trina. I knew you didn't slip. Your face was a mess." "You remember Christmas night, Mrs. Delaney?" "Of course I remember," she snapped. "You were on this very doorstep, white as a sheet, holding a dish towel to your head, blood all down your collar. You tried to tell me you tripped on the stairs." "And what did you say?" I said, "Nonsense. I was an ER nurse for 40 years. A fall scuffs you. It doesn't split your temple open like a melon. That was a strike. I've seen 1,000 of them. And those finger-shaped bruises on your wrist? That was a grip. I cleaned you up, put 3 butterfly bandages on the cut, and told you to call the police." An hour later, I had her signed and notarized affidavit. Treated Lauren Allen for a laceration to the temple consistent with a direct strike, not a fall. Observed deep bruising on the right wrist, consistent with being grabbed and held. The accident narrative was dead. As I drove back to the city, my phone rang. An unknown number. "Is this Lauren Allen?" a man's voice asked. "Who is this?" "My name is Theo Bright. I'm a reporter with the Ravenport Ledger. That's the Ledger, not the Weekly," he said, as if to prove his credentials. "I'm a real reporter. I'm seeing a lot of smoke here. A police report was filed on the 26th. A petition for a protective order was just granted this morning, and the director of the Community Food Bank just issued a public statement saying the Caldwell Hearth Foundation is unknown to them and they're concerned their name is being used." He paused. "That's a lot for one family. Do you have a comment?" I pulled the car over. This was the moment. Trina had used the media to spread lies. I would use it to spread the truth. "I don't have a comment, Mr. Bright," I said, my voice calm. "I'm an auditor. I deal in verifiable facts. The police report number is 922-VG. The petition in probate court is a public document. The filing with the state charity registry is a public document. Ms. Davis's statement is a public document. You're a reporter. Report on the public record. It's all there. I hung up. When I got home, I went back to work. I went back to the Caldwell Hearth Foundation's social media page. The fraudulent Christmas Eve photo was still there, but now it had angry comments piling up beneath it. I scrolled. I was looking for more. And I found it. A post from 2 weeks ago. So proud to be collecting these brand new toys for our Hearth and Hope holiday drive. The photo showed Trina, smiling, next to a mountain of board games and dolls. I zoomed in, and I laughed. On the side of a Candyland box, a bright yellow sticker was partially visible, a price tag. But it wasn't a retail tag, it was a tag from Goodwill. I zoomed in closer. Behind the stack of donated toys, I could see the edge of my father's workbench. She wasn't at a store. She was in her own garage. She hadn't bought these toys. She had, picked them up from a donation bin? Staged them for a photo before they went to the dump? It didn't matter. The post claimed they were new and part of her drive. It was another lie. I took a screenshot. I ran the hash. I added it to the Elk. The final move of the day came from Marisol. She had drafted a settlement offer. Her lawyer, some gorilla named Harkin, has been calling the office all afternoon, screaming about the protective order. Marisol said, "He's all bluster. He's scared. So we send this now, while he's off balance." The offer was a work of art. It was not a negotiation. It was a list of terms for her surrender. 1. Full and immediate restitution of all funds misallocated from the Pierce Allen Trust. 2. Immediate and permanent resignation as household guardian. 3. A full public apology, posted to the Foundation's Facebook page, for the misleading and fraudulent fundraising posts. 4. A 5-year state-mandated ban on serving as a director for any nonprofit entity. And 5. A signed, sworn letter of admission regarding the events of December 25th, to be filed with the court. "She will never, ever sign this," I said, reading the list. "She will," Marisol said, "or we will proceed, and she will lose all of it, plus her liberty. This is her one chance to avoid a criminal referral." The call came the next day, December 30th. Harkin, Trina's lawyer, on speakerphone. Marisol had her recorder on. "An absolute outrage," he was yelling. "This is a shakedown. My client is a pillar of this community. She has managed her husband's affairs for a decade. She was acting fully within her rights as guardian to protect the trust from a volatile beneficiary. That transfer of $80,000 she made yesterday was a perfectly legal distribution." I looked at Marisol. She held up one finger. Her eyes were electric. The line was silent for a beat. I felt my own pulse hammering in my throat. Marisol unmuted her line. Her voice was pure, lethal silk. "Mr. Harkin, I must have misheard you. I'm looking at the trust addendum now. The one your client drafted, the annual distribution, scheduled for December 28th, was for $60,000. She paused. "You just said 80,000. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. It was vast and empty. "Mr. Harkin?" Marisol prompted gently. That's privileged. I misspoke." "Did you?" Marisol asked. "Or did your client, in a panic, transfer an additional $20,000, funds she was not entitled to, from an account she did not disclose, after she was served with our petition? Because you just opened the door to full discovery on every single account she holds, not just the ones we already know about." Harkin started stammering, something about work product and spousal privilege. "You just confirmed she's actively spiriting away assets, Mr. Harkin," Marisol interrupted. "You just confirmed our entire case. Thank you for your time. Our settlement offer expires tomorrow at noon. I suggest you advise your client to take it." She hung up. I stared at her. What just happened?" "He just gave us the key to a second vault." "Lauren," Marisol said, "the one we didn't know existed, the rainy day fund she's been building with your father's money for 10 years. He just told us, on a recorded line, that she's moving the cash. He was trying to sound tough, and he just buried his own client." The heist was working. The team was in place, the blueprints were accurate, and the inside man had just, stupidly, handed us the combination. Trina did not retreat. She did not apologize. She doubled down. On December 30th, the day after her lawyer had functionally confessed to fraud on a recorded line, she launched her public counteroffensive. She announced the first annual Hearth and Hope Gala. The announcement did not come from the Foundation's now toxic Facebook page. It was an email blast, sent from my father's corporate account. Gordon and Trina Allen cordially invite you to join them on New Year's Eve to refill the depleted pantries of Ravenport. It was an act of spectacular, blinding arrogance. She was not only denying the allegations, she was monetizing them. She was using Ms. Davis's affidavit, the one stating the food bank was empty, as her new case for support. She was daring the entire county to call her a liar, and she was using my father and his entire network of business contacts as her shield and her fundraiser. The event was tomorrow, New Year's Eve, at the Grand Ballroom of the Atlas Hotel. She was stupid. I knew that ballroom, Northbridge, my firm, hosted its annual ethics seminar there. I knew the AV manager. I also knew, because our COO had complained about the cost, that the hotel had just completed a $500,000 audio-visual upgrade. This upgrade included a broadcast-quality, multi-camera system that could live-stream any event to a shared, unencrypted client folder for remote attendees. She was planning to broadcast her felony. I forwarded the invitation to Marisol. Her reply was a single sentence: "She is a gift." By 10 a.m., a legal courier was dispatched from Marisol's office to the Atlas Hotel's general manager, their events director, and their corporate counsel. The packet did not demand they cancel the event. That would have given Trina a platform to cry censorship. It was, as Marisol termed it, a notification of co-liability. It contained the whistleblower complaint filed with the state charity registry. It contained the registry's notice of investigation. It contained Ms. Davis's sworn affidavit. It contained a copy of the Ravenport Ledger article, which, by that morning, was the most read story on their site. And, as a masterstroke, it contained a copy of the City Fire Code, highlighting the strict penalties for exceeding posted occupancy limits, and a polite inquiry as to whether the hotel's insurance was current for hosting a known fraudulent fundraiser. The hotel's counsel called Marisol within the hour. The contract would not be canceled. That would open them to a lawsuit. But a special clause had been added to the Caldwell Hearth Foundation's event rider. The hotel, the lawyer stated, would assume no responsibility for the content of the evening's presentation. Its new, state-of-the-art AV system was being provided as is, and the Caldwell Hearth Foundation assumes 100% of all legal and financial responsibility for any and all statements, representations, or solicitations made using hotel equipment. They had just, legally, handed Trina the shovel and stepped back from the hole she was digging. The timeline was converging. The hearing for the permanent protective order was scheduled for the next day, December 31st, at noon. The gala was at 8 p.m. The final piece of ammunition arrived at 8 a.m. on the morning of New Year's Eve. A secured, encrypted link landed in Marisol's inbox. It was from the security company's legal department, in full compliance with our subpoena. It was the full, high-definition video file from the foyer camera at 1225 Hawthorne Drive, timestamped December 25th. Marisol and I watched it on her 40-inch conference room monitor. The cold, digital clarity was sickening. It was so much worse than the blurry reflection in the live photo. There I was, holding out the gift. There was Trina, her face freezing, her hand shooting out, clamping onto my right wrist. There was the frame, dropping, the silent explosion of glass. There was my hand, still raised from the momentum. There was Trina's right hand, arcing through the air. The motion was not a slap. It was a full-bodied strike. The camera's microphone was sensitive. It picked up the flat, wet crack as her palm connected with my cheek. It picked up the second, faster smack of the backhand. It picked up the sound of my head hitting the newel post, a hollow, wooden thud, And then, as I slid to the floor, my father's voice, clear as a bell, echoing slightly in the hardwood foyer. "Be grateful she accepted it, Lauren." Marisol stopped the video. She pressed rewind and played just that part again. The strike, the thud, the voice. "Be grateful she accepted it, Lauren." "Well," Marisol said, closing the laptop, "that's that." She looked at the clock. "The hearing is at noon. The judge will see this video, hear her threats from the dinner, and grant the permanent order. By the time she steps on that stage tonight, she will be in violation of a court order if she even mentions your name." As I left Marisol's office, my phone buzzed. A link from Theo Bright. His follow-up story in the Ravenport Ledger had just gone live. The headline was a masterpiece of neutral destruction. Local foundation's registration questioned days before NYE Gala. Court records show civil and criminal complaints. He didn't editorialize. He didn't need to. He just published the facts. He quoted the state charity registry's Notice of Investigation number. He quoted Miss Davis's affidavit verbatim, the one where she stated she had never received any donation. He quoted the court docket numbers for the protective order petition and the emergency filing in probate court. He had, in essence, provided a clean, verifiable public map of the entire ELK file. Trina's response was immediate, and it was pure panic. She posted a video to the foundation's dying Facebook page. It was a selfie video, shot in her living room. She had clearly been crying. She was wearing white. She looked, as always, like the victim. "There are forces," she said, her voice thick and trembling, "who want to destroy good work. You read things. You hear things. There are holiday demons, people who thrive on chaos and who hate to see a family heal." She was calling me a holiday demon. "But we," she continued, her voice rising, "will not be intimidated. The Hearth and Hope Gala is on. Tonight, we will stand together as a community, and we will show these negative forces what hope really looks like." The comments section was a battlefield. Her few remaining supporters posted praying hands emojis, but they were drowned out by a wave of new voices, clearly driven by Theo's article. "Why does the food bank say you never donated? What's this about a court order? Trina, why is there a police report?" My father's network was getting nervous. I saw the name of a bank president, a man who sat on 2 city boards with my father. "Gordon, call me. We're getting questions from our board. We need an explanation before we can release our pledged funds." Trina's reply, copied and pasted over and over. "This is a private family misunderstanding, and it is all being handled. Don't listen to the noise. We will see you tonight." It was time. I had 2 things to do. First, I went home and got dressed. I had bought a suit for the occasion. Not black, which would be funereal. Not gray, which would be invisible. I bought a suit in a deep, dark, navy blue, wool crepe. The jacket had sharp, structured shoulders. The trousers were cut like a razor. It was not a suit for a victim. It was not a suit for a daughter. It was a suit for an audit. It was the most unapologetic garment I had ever owned. My second stop was at 7 p.m. I did not go to the Atlas Hotel. I went to the Northbridge satellite office, in the building directly across the street. Marisol had arranged everything. The hotel's compliance officer, a man named DeLuca, was an ex-cop who did not like being lied to, and he especially did not like his hotel's name being attached to a fraud. He had taken Marisol's legal packet very, very seriously. He had personally, and quietly, given Marisol's tech team a read-only access port to the hotel's AV network. When I walked into the dark conference room on the 19th floor, it looked like a mission control center. Marisol was there. Ben, my forensic accountant friend, was at a laptop. A technician I didn't know was managing the feed. One monitor showed a crisp, high-definition, multi-camera feed of the grand ballroom stage, where a 9-piece band was tuning and guests were finding their seats. A second monitor showed a live mirror of the Hearth and Hope online donation portal. Ben had a third monitor, open to a complex flowchart of bank accounts. The plan was simple. We were the off-site auditors. The moment Trina stepped on that stage and told a verifiable lie, the moment she mentioned the food bank, or the Christmas Eve delivery, or the fraudulent matching grant from Atlas County that we'd seen in her leaked presentation deck, Marisol would file an emergency injunction to freeze the accounts. Ben would trace the incoming donations in real time. Down on the street, I could see the black cars pulling up to the hotel canopy. Men in tuxedos, women in glittering gowns. They were all members of my father's circle, all there to toast Trina's charity and drink champagne as the clock ticked toward midnight. They thought they were at a New Year's Eve party. They had no idea they were the primary witnesses at an execution. Midnight was the ceremony, but the judgment, I thought, as I looked at the clock, had already happened. 12 hours ago, in a quiet, fluorescent-lit courtroom. The time was noon, December 31st. The setting was courtroom 3B. It was not a grand hall of justice. It was a small, beige room that smelled of stale coffee and wet wool, lit by the unforgiving hum of fluorescent bulbs. The world outside was muffled by a heavy snowfall. I was wearing my navy blue suit. We were there for the hearing on the petition for a temporary protective order, but Marisol had successfully motioned to combine it with the emergency hearing on the probate matter. We were doing it all in one brutal pass. Trina was there, sitting next to Harkin. She was wearing a soft, dove-gray suit, a picture of wounded innocence. My father sat behind her, in the first row of the gallery, his shoulders slumped, his face the color of ash. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Alvarez, read the petition. Her face was impassive. "Ms. Allen," she said, her voice flat, "please state, for the record, the events of December 25th. I stood. I did not look at Trina. I did not look at my father. I looked at the state flag hanging behind the judge. On December 25th, at approximately 5:15 p.m., I began, my voice clear and even. I presented my stepmother, Trina Caldwell, with a Christmas gift. She reacted with verbal aggression. She then physically restrained me by my right wrist. When I tried to pull away, the gift, a picture frame, was dropped. She then struck me twice, with an open hand, on the left and right sides of my face. She then shoved me, with two hands, into the newel post of the main staircase, causing a laceration to my left temple and contusions. "And your father, Miss Gordon Allen, was present for this?" "Yes, Your Honor, he was." "And his reaction?" "He told me, quote, be grateful she accepted it," end quote. He then instructed me not to ruin the holiday. Harkin shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor. This is conjecture. The tone. This is a vindictive family squabble." "The tone, Mr. Harkin, is one of a sworn statement. Sit down," the judge said, not even looking at him. "Ms. Greer, your evidence." "Your Honor," Marisol said, stepping forward, "we present Exhibit A, a series of time-stamped photographs of Ms. Allen's injuries, taken contemporaneously. Exhibit B, a live photo video clip, taken by Ms. Allen, showing the reflection of the assault in progress. And Exhibit C, a full, high-definition video recording, obtained via subpoena, from the home's own security system, time-stamped December 25th, 5:16 p.m. The courtroom clerk dimmed the lights. Marisol cued the video on the large monitor facing the bench. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the clear digital audio from the video file. We all watched it, the grab, the crack of the first strike, the smack of the second, the hollow thud of my head hitting the wood, and then my father's voice, filling the beige room, echoing in the terrible silence. "Be grateful she accepted it, Lauren." I heard a sound from the gallery, a low, choked sob. It was my father. He had his face buried in his hands. He was seeing, for the first time, what he had actually done, what he had endorsed. Trina was staring at the screen, her mouth slightly open, her face white. She looked, for the first time, not like a monster, but like a bad gambler who had just seen the final card turned over. The video ended. The clerk turned the lights back on. The fluorescent hum seemed louder now. Judge Alvarez looked at Trina. Her eyes were cold. "Mr. Harkin," the judge said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You have evidence to refute this?" Harkin, who looked like he had been punched, stood up, shuffled his papers. "Your Honor, my client. It was an accident, an emotional moment. She slipped. She was trying to catch her, not push her." "Mr. Harkin," the judge said, "I have been on this bench for 20 years. I know what an accident looks like, and I know what an assault looks like. The video is clear, the audio is clear, and the witness statement of Mr. Allen is, frankly, the most chilling part of all." She turned to her computer. She typed, "The court finds that the plaintiff, Lauren Allen, is in clear and present danger of irreparable harm. A temporary protective order is hereby granted, effective immediately, for a period of 1 year. Trina Caldwell is forbidden from any and all contact with Lauren Allen, in person, via telephone, via electronic mail, or through any third party. She will remain at least 500 yards from Ms. Allen's person, residence, and place of employment at all times. Do you understand these terms, Ms. Caldwell?" Trina just stared, stunned. "Ms. Caldwell?" the judge barked. "Yes, Your Honor," Trina whispered. "Good. Violation of this order is a criminal offense, and you will be arrested. We are done with that matter." The judge turned to the second file. As to the emergency petition regarding the Pierce Allen Revocable Trust, the evidence presented, specifically the audio recording from December 27th, is deeply disturbing. She looked at Trina. "Ma'am, you are quoted here as saying, 'I am redirecting those funds to protect this household from your instability.' You admit, in your own words, to converting trust assets for your own use. That is the definition of self-dealing. It is a flagrant breach of your fiduciary duty. This court is placing the petition for your permanent removal as guardian on the emergency docket. In the interim, you are hereby warned, any transfer, any movement, any redirecting of any asset from any account related to this trust will be seen as a direct contempt of this court, and I will not be lenient. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Your Honor," Trina managed. "Good. We are adjourned." The gavel cracked. It was over. Marisol packed her briefcase, a quick, efficient snap of the locks. We walked out into the main hall. The snow was falling thick and fast outside the tall windows, covering the courthouse steps in a clean white blanket. I felt steady. There was no joy. There was no triumph. It was just the math, adding up, the audit, complete. I had presented the receipts, and the bill had been paid. My father was standing by the exit, his face crumpled and red. He looked lost. He saw me, and his eyes filled with a desperate, pathetic hope. "Lolly," he said, taking a step toward me. "Lolly, please, we can fix." "Mr. Allen!" Marisol's voice was a whip crack in the marble hall. She stepped directly between us. "You are a third party. You are aware of the protective order that was just issued. Your attempt to fix this constitutes a criminal violation of that order. If you take one more step toward my client, I will have the bailiff arrest you. Is that clear?" He flinched, as if she had hit him. He looked at me, over her shoulder, his mouth working. I just held his gaze. I said nothing. I let the silence be the answer. He deflated. The last bit of fight, of hope, of denial, went out of him. He turned, a gray, broken old man, and shuffled away. We pushed open the heavy brass doors. The cold air felt clean. A figure was waiting at the bottom of the steps, holding an umbrella against the snow. Theo Bright, the reporter. "Ms. Allen?" he called out. "The judge granted the order. Do you have any comment on the ruling, or on your stepmother's gala tonight?" I pulled the collar of my navy blue coat tighter. I looked at him. I gave him the only truth I had. The public record speaks for itself. I walked past him. By the time Marisol and I were in the car, my phone was buzzing. a link to the foundation's Facebook page. Trina had already posted. It was a new statement, typed, not a video. Thank you to all our supporters. As you may hear, a temporary legal misunderstanding has occurred, born from a private family matter. We want to assure you this is being handled, and it will not affect our vital work. The Hearth and Hope Gala is more important now than ever. We will see you tonight. She's calling a 1-year protective order a temporary misunderstanding, I said, incredulous. It's all she has left, Marisol said, checking her own phone. Bluster, keep an eye on your email. The bluster was already failing. As we drove, I saw a new email pop up in the chain of gala sponsors that I was monitoring. It was from the bank president, the one who had asked my father for an explanation. To Gordon Allen, CC, Trina Caldwell. Subject, Gala Gordon. In light of the court order issued today, and the lack of a clear response from your foundation regarding the food bank's public statement, our legal counsel has advised us to withdraw our support. We must regretfully ask for a full refund of our $20,000 sponsorship pledge. Please advise as to your refund policy. It's starting, I whispered. Marisol's phone rang. She put it on speaker. It was DeLuca, the compliance officer from the Atlas Hotel. Ms. Greer, he said, his voice gruff. I thought you should know. Your subject, Ms. Caldwell, is here, doing a final tech check in the ballroom. She's just given our AV team her final presentation deck for the teleprompter. And? Marisol asked. And? DeLuca said. I'm looking at slide 24. It's a huge graphic. It promises a, quote, 1-for-1 matching grant from the Atlas County Community Relief Fund. She's going to tell all her high roller donors tonight that the county is matching their pledges. Marisol and I locked eyes. And is the county matching the funds, Mr. DeLuca? Marisol asked, her voice sweet. That's the thing, he replied. I just called my contact at the county commissioner's office. The Atlas County Community Relief Fund does not exist. Marisol smiled. It was a terrifying sight. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. You've been invaluable. Please, proceed with her tech check. Make sure that teleprompter is working perfectly for her. She hung up. She pulled her laptop from her bag. As I drove, she began typing furiously. What are you doing? I asked. Harkin was stupid. Trina is reckless, she said, her fingers flying. She is about to stand on a stage, in a room full of witnesses, in violation of a protective order, and solicit funds based on a non-existent matching grant. That is not just fraud, that is wire fraud, mail fraud, and theft by deception, all in one shimmering, sequined package. She hit send. What was that? That, Marisol said, closing the laptop, was an emergency ex parte injunction, addressed to the judge. It details this new, fraudulent, matching grant, the moment Ms. Caldwell steps on stage tonight and speaks that lie into a microphone. I hit send on a second email, and the judge will sign a temporary restraining order, freezing the foundation's bank accounts and every dollar she raises, before the first glass of champagne is even finished. That was the scene as I walked into the command center at 7 p.m. The court order was in my pocket. The injunction was loaded. The video feed of the ballroom was live. The trap was no longer a plan. It was an active, baited, and legally sanctioned mechanism, just waiting for the click. The grand ballroom of the Atlas Hotel was a masterpiece of denial. It was all champagne fountains and glittering chandeliers. A 9-piece band played a smooth, desperate jazz, trying to fill the acoustics of a room that was only 2/3 full. The theme was Hearth and Hope, which Trina had interpreted as thousands of white roses, hundreds of flickering candles, and ice sculptures melting under the hot lights. Trina herself was the centerpiece. She glided through the tables in a floor-length, shimmering white gown, a martyr in sequins. My father was at her side, his navy blue tuxedo pulling tight across his shoulders. He was trying to smile, but he looked like a man walking to his own execution. I was not in the ballroom, I was above it. I was in the AV Tech booth at the back of the room, behind a panel of one-way glass. The room was dark, cramped, and smelled of hot metal. I was wearing my navy blue suit. I was not alone. Next to me sat Mr. DeLuca, the hotel's compliance officer, his arms crossed, watching the party with the bored expression of a man who had seen it all. In the corner, on a stool by the locked door, sat a uniformed deputy sheriff. He had a copy of the 1-year protective order resting on his knee. I was here to supervise the audit. He was here to make sure the 500-yard rule was enforced. "She's a piece of work. I'll give her that," DeLuca muttered, watching Trina laugh and touch a donor's arm. At 9 p.m., the band finished a song, and the lights dimmed. A single, warm spotlight hit the stage. My father walked to the podium. He looked small. "Friends, colleagues," he stammered, reading from a card. "Thank you for coming. In trying times, community is everything, and no one understands that more than my wife, Trina." He gestured. Trina glided onto the stage to a smattering of polite applause. She kissed my father's ashen cheek and took her place at the podium. The teleprompter, which we could see mirrored on our own monitor, lit up with her speech. "Thank you, Gordon," she began, her voice radiating a warm, false sincerity. "My heart, our hearth, is so full tonight. When we started this foundation, we had one goal: to heal, to build, to provide hope for those families who are struggling." She paused, her eyes glistening beautifully. "This work is not always easy. Sometimes you face forces, people who prefer chaos to community, people who would rather take private, family misunderstandings into the cold, harsh light of a courtroom." A murmur went through the crowd. In the booth, I nodded. "There's the jab," I said. A man at a front table, the bank president who had demanded his refund, raised his hand. "Trina," he called out, his voice polite but firm. "Before we continue, I have to ask, we've all seen the ledger story. The food bank director says your foundation isn't registered and has never donated. Can you clarify that?" The room went silent. The band stopped shuffling music. Trina's smile didn't flicker. She let out a small, tinkling laugh. "Oh, Frank, always the banker. That is just a tiny, Grinch-like misunderstanding. A little holiday paperwork snafu. It's already being handled. Now," she said, quickly moving on. "Let's not focus on the past. Let's focus on the future." The giant screens on either side of the stage, which had been showing a tasteful Hearth and Hope logo, suddenly changed. It was her presentation deck. It clicked to slide 24, a huge, gaudy graphic. "And tonight," she boomed, her voice rising, "I am so proud to announce our new partnership, a 1-for-1 matching grant from the Atlas County Community Relief Fund." "That's our cue," DeLuca said. He hit a switch on his console. The public-facing live stream, which was being sent to the virtual attendees, instantly cut to black. A simple white text overlay appeared. The hotel's official font. "Notice: the Atlas Hotel has been unable to verify the existence of the Atlas County Community Relief Fund. This claim is made solely by the Caldwell Hearth Foundation and is not endorsed by this venue." In the ballroom, phones began to buzz. Guests looked down, confused, then looked up at Trina with new, sharp eyes. The murmuring was louder now, confused and angry. Trina saw the shift. She faltered. "Now, I know there has been some confusion, a truly tiny error on that slide, made by a volunteer. My goodness, you can't find good help." She was floundering. She laughed, a high, brittle sound. Let's move on. Let's not talk about numbers. Let's talk about people. Let's hear from some of the families we've helped." She turned, her back to the audience, and pointed, furious, at the AV booth, at me. "Roll the testimonial video, now." DeLuca nodded to the hotel technician. The tech hit play on the file Marisol had prepared, the file labeled Public Record Compilation. The main screens in the ballroom flickered. It was not a tearful family. It was a clean white graphic, public record, Caldwell Hearth Foundation, date of incorporation, November 30th. Trina, still facing the booth, froze. That's not the file, she hissed. The slide changed. A high-resolution image of the faked Christmas Eve photo. A red circle around the green leaves on the tree in the background. A second red box. EXIF data. Date, taken, September 5th. A woman in the front row gasped. The slide changed again. A screenshot of Theo Bright's article. The headline blown up. Foundation's registration questioned. "Stop it," Trina whispered, her voice a low growl. "Stop it." The screens went black. The ballroom was plunged into silence. And then, audio. My voice, from the dinner. "Are you threatening my job, Trina?" Trina's voice, amplified by the state-of-the-art sound system, filling every corner of the room, a voice of pure, cold venom. "I will burn you to the ground before I let you. Tear it apart." The collective gasp of the audience was a physical thing, a sudden rush of air. And then, the finale. Trina's recorded shriek. "Yes, I moved the money. I am redirecting those funds to protect this household from your instability," and my father's pathetic, damning reply. Just listen to your stepmother. She manages everything." "No!" My father, his face purple, roared from the side of the stage. "No! Shut it off! Lies!" He charged the back of the room, running, scrambling toward the AV booth. The door of the booth swung open. The deputy sheriff stepped out into the ballroom light. Calm and solid, he simply stood in my father's path. "Sir, I'm afraid you can't come in here." My father skidded to a stop, his face inches from the deputy's vest. He was trapped. DeLuca, the compliance officer, stepped up to the house lectern. Pushing Trina's useless notes aside, he tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed, cutting through the chaos. "Due to the discrepancies presented this evening, the Atlas Hotel must announce that all pledges and donations made tonight will be immediately placed in a third-party escrow account, pending a full verification and a review by the State Attorney General. Please see the concierge for refund information." The game was over. Trina was standing alone on the stage, a statue of white-hot rage. The spotlight was still on her. She knew I was behind the glass. She turned. She looked straight at the black, reflective panel of the AV booth. She looked right at me. Then, she turned to the main broadcast camera next to the booth, the one feeding the monitors, the one feeding my evidence file. "Lauren!" Her voice was a raw, primal scream, so loud the speakers distorted. "You did this. You toxic, spiteful, hateful child. You ruined this. You ruined everything." The deputy sheriff looked at me. I met his gaze and nodded once. He turned back to his clipboard and made a note. Time, 9:52 p.m. Direct verbal contact and threat. Direct violation of Order 922, VG. It was done. The room was dissolving. Guests were standing up, collecting their wraps. They were not running. They were simply leaving. The bank president, Frank, paused as he passed my father, who was still standing, defeated, in front of the deputy. Frank didn't raise his voice. He just looked at my father with a kind of clinical pity. "You could have stopped this, Gordon, any time. You chose this." He adjusted his tuxedo cuffs and walked out. Trina was alone on the stage. The band was gone. The guests were gone. The room was a graveyard of white roses and half-empty champagne glasses. She looked at the microphone in her hand. She looked at the AV booth. She screamed, a wordless sound of pure, animal rage, and threw the heavy microphone at the floor. A deafening, painful scream feedback tore through the empty ballroom. It was the only sound left, the sound of the entire, glittering, rotten facade, cracking open for the world to see. The feedback from the throne microphone was still howling when Marisol, sitting next to me in the dark AV booth, hit send on her laptop. "And that," she said quietly, as the shriek died, "is the emergency injunction, filed electronically, time-stamped 9:53 p.m. The judge is on standby. All gala proceeds are now frozen." The deputy in the corner made his own note. "Violation of Order 922 VG. Direct verbal threat and harassment. Recorded." He stood, clicked his radio. "We're done here." The consequences were not a wave. They were a series of precise surgical incisions. The next morning, January 1st, the Atlas County Charity Registry issued a summary suspension, immediately and publicly revoking the Caldwell Hearth Foundation's right to solicit or distribute any funds, citing overwhelming evidence of fraudulent solicitation and public deception. The gala, Trina's last great act of defiance, had been her public execution. The probate hearing, scheduled for later in the month, was pulled forward by Judge Alvarez. She was, as Marisol had predicted, not amused. The hearing was a formality. Trina and my father were there. Their lawyer, Harkin, looked deflated. Judge Alvarez was brief. "Ms. Caldwell, you were warned by this court on December 31st regarding your fiduciary duties. You were served with a protective order. You chose, that very same evening, to stand on a stage and violate both. You attempted to solicit funds under false pretenses, and you directly, and with recorded malice, violated a criminal protective order." She did not look at Trina again. "Ms. Caldwell is removed as household guardian, effective immediately. Her access to all related accounts is terminated. In her place, the court appointed a neutral third-party trustee, a retired forensic accountant named Arthur Jane, a man with a reputation for finding every single receipt. Mr. Jane's first act, within an hour of his appointment, was to file emergency clawback petitions against Caldwell Home Strategy, LLC, and Western Vale Interiors, demanding the immediate return of all improperly allocated funds and fees for services not rendered. The loop was closing. My father's reckoning came a week later, in the same courtroom. He had to testify. He was the co-signer, the treasurer of the fraudulent foundation. Harkin tried to paint him as the victim, a busy, trusting husband who was unaware of the details. Mr. Jane's attorney was a small, sharp woman who did not buy it. "Mr. Allen?" she asked. "You were in this court when Judge Alvarez issued her warning. You were on that stage when your wife solicited fraudulent donations. Were you aware that your wife was transferring $60,000 from your daughter's trust into her own private LLC, disguised as a management fee?" He had to choose. It was the last, most important choice of his life. Did he know, making him a co-conspirator? Or did he not know, making him a grossly negligent fool? He chose negligence. I didn't," he stammered, his voice thick, his face crumpled. I signed what she gave me. I trusted her." He looked at the judge, his eyes pleading. "She manages everything." He put his face in his hands and he began to cry. Deep, ugly, gulping sobs. It didn't matter. His tears didn't change the spreadsheets. His performance of ignorance didn't erase the digital signatures on the transfers. The court did not see a victim. It saw an accessory. He had failed his duty as a trustee, as a treasurer, and as a father. Harkin's bluster was gone. He was no longer a gorilla. He was a man trying to keep his clients out of a state-issued jumpsuit. He called Marisol and asked for a settlement conference. We met in Marisol's office. Harkin sat across from us, his expensive suit looking slept in. "My clients," he said, reading stiffly from a legal pad, "are prepared to settle all civil claims." Marisol just stared at him. "Go on." "Ms. Caldwell will agree to a full and public apology, to be posted on all social media. She will repay, in full, all disputed funds to the Pierce Allen Trust. She will immediately and permanently resign from any and all fiduciary roles, including the trust. and she will consent to a 5-year state-mandated ban on managing or operating any nonprofit organization in the state of Pennsylvania. It was a total victory, a complete surrender. Marisol looked at me. I was the client. It was my call. I leaned forward. Harkin looked up, annoyed. "One more thing," I said. My voice was quiet. "I want a letter, a written, signed, notarized letter of admission. In it, she will detail the events of December 25th. She will admit to striking me. She will admit to shoving me. And she will admit that my father's statement was to be grateful for the assault. That letter will be filed with the court, under seal." "That's," Harkin stammered, "that's humiliation. It's inadmissible." "It's the lock," I said, cutting him off. "And here's the key. If she, or my father, or any third party acting on her behalf, ever contacts me, harasses me, or mentions my name in public again, that seal is broken, and that letter, her full confession, goes straight to Theo Bright and the Ravenport Ledger. It is her good behavior bond. It is non-negotiable." Harkin stared at me. He knew he had no choice. He nodded, slowly. I'll advise my client." The final hearing was almost silent. We were back in Judge Alvarez's courtroom. It was just us, the lawyers, Trina, my father. The settlement was presented. The judge read the terms. Then, she read the letter. Her voice was a clinical monotone, which made the words even more stark. "I, Trina Caldwell, do hereby state that on December 25th, I did knowingly and willfully engage in a verbal altercation. I did physically restrain Lauren Allen. I did strike her twice on the face with an open hand, and I did shove her into the newel post, causing injury. I further state that Gordon Allen was present and advised Miss Allen to be grateful." The judge finished reading. She looked at Trina. Trina was wearing black. She looked small, brittle, and consumed by a silent, powerless rage. She stared at me, but her eyes were dead. The power was gone. She had nothing left to leverage, nothing left to hold. She was just an empty, angry woman in an expensive suit. "The court accepts this settlement. All related matters are hereby closed," Judge Alvarez said. Her gavel cracked. It was finished. I stood up. I walked out of the courtroom. He was waiting in the hall, my father. He looked erased. He looked like a sketch of a man. "Lolly?" he whispered as I walked past. His voice was a dry rattle. Can we fix this? Can we go back to before?" I stopped. I didn't look at him. I looked at the wet gray slush tracked onto the marble floor. "You already answered that, Dad," I said. I turned my head and met his gaze. "You answered it on Christmas Day." I walked away, and I did not look back. Outside, the snow had stopped. The city was covered in a clean, bright, painful white. The air was so cold it stung my lungs. It felt good. I reached into the inner pocket of my navy blue suit. I pulled out the stack of papers, the final, certified copy of the judgment, the settlement, the 1-year protective order, and underneath it all, the sealed, notarized letter. This stack of paper, this was the only thing I had ever needed from the House of Holidays. I sat in my car. The silence was absolute. I pulled out my phone. I composed one last email. To Gordon Allen. Subject, contact. Body, I will not be returning to the house. All future communications regarding the trust or the estate must go through my lawyer. Be well. I hit send. I got out of the car. I stood on the sidewalk. I touched my temple. Right at the hairline. The cut was gone. All that remained was a faint, pink scar, invisible unless you were looking for it. The bruise on my lip had faded. The marks on my wrist were gone. The ledger was balanced. The audit was closed. The boundaries were signed and sealed and filed with the court. It was quiet. The whole world was holding its breath. It was quiet enough to hear the sound of my own life. It was finally beginning. Right here, on the edge of where my gratitude had finally and fully become justice. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please comment below and let me know where you are listening from. I would love to connect and hear your thoughts. Please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button so this story can be heard by more people.